Okay, top 4. That's what we're always after when we support a Premier League club. Apparently I don't, sadly. Newcastle are in 3rd. Man United are currently in 4th. Tottenham in 5th. Aston Villa in 6th. Liverpool in 7th. And Brighton are in 8th. We're going to go through the runners and riders because you never know in football. It does feel like those top 2 in terms of Newcastle and Man United, obviously, I've got a little bit of a buffer at the moment. But there's a lot of interesting games still to be played here. And if we start at the bottom of this, I think it's actually a wider conversation as well when we're talking about what do some of these teams actually want for next season's Champions League. Because when you have too many games, that can hurt you, or if you've got a bit of a freer pathway, that can really make you push on for the next season. So let's start in 8th and 7th place. Brighton and Liverpool. Brighton have been one of the stories of the season for me. And when it comes to games played, they've got a couple of games in hand, obviously because of the FA Cup run. In terms of their games, they've got some big games to play as well, and they can ruffle some feathers. Forest, Wolves, Man United, Everton, and Arsenal. I think when you look at it and you go, it's Brighton, you think they'll probably fall away. But this Brighton side has been absolutely fantastic this year, haven't they?
Yeah, and they're not bothered by anyone they come up against. I'm glad now we've got to a point where people are saying this is De Zerbi's Brighton. I think when De Zerbi came in, everyone said this is Potter's Brighton. De Zerbi's just picking up the pieces. They've gone from Potter's Brighton to now even better. Their XG in the
took him a few games, didn't it, as well? They didn't start off that brilliantly, but
they were playing a bit too open at first, and I think he's found a fix. And like whenever you watch them, their XG in the last 5 games is just outrageous. 2.94 against Chelsea, 4.47 against Brentford. They take on Forest away, which will be difficult because any team that's down there is going to fight for their lives. But when I look at Brighton, I do feel they're the sort of team you can pin them against anyone and they'll create chances. Yeah. And if they create chances, they have a chance at scoring goals.
Of these guys, are they the best team?
What do you mean, out of Brighton and Liverpool?
So, like, if you had to play against one of these guys, and take the sort of ground out of it or the history of the club out of it, I think Brighton's probably the best team there,
as I said before, Brighton's a team that I'm worried about for the last couple of games this season. And I feel like it's going to be tough to change the top 4 as it is now. But if you was to give Brighton a shout, they're going to want to take points off Man United, which they face in in the next couple of games. They're going to want that revenge from the Cup semi-final because I know nothing's deserved in a game, but they were the better side for majority of the game, and penalties is not how you want to go out. And I really feel like Brighton are going to go full throttle. I don't know what they want. I don't know if they want Champions League football or if they just want to get into Europe.
They probably do.
They might not want to get Champions. They might want. Obviously, everyone wants Champions League football, but I don't know if that's their ultimate goal.
I think that's definitely their ultimate goal.
If it is,
I think you've got a dream, and I think the XG is a good thing to point out because they are consistently better than their opposition. And you know, people sort of turn their nose up at XG, but the point is it's an indicator that you can then use to provide context for other things. And you know, it comes with the shots as well. What it probably tells us as well is that because they are so dominant when it comes to XG and creating chances, they're not clinical enough in terms of taking them, and that will probably inevitably be the thing that will undo them, and has been the problem for them actually for many seasons. But absolutely fantastic season for them. And I think when you look at the goal difference, I think it's always a good indicator of how good a side is. Plus 17 goal difference at the moment.
Not with Liverpool.
But again, Liverpool's similar kind of thing.
7-0 against United.
Yeah, 9-0 against Bournemouth. That'll help as well.
6-1 against Leeds.
True. That is true. Let's move on to Liverpool. I think Liverpool, if anyone's going to do it, I think Brighton will go on a run and need to take those points away from Man United from one point of it. When I've gone through it all, I had Liverpool getting very close, and they were 2 points off 4th spot for me. And what I do think is with Newcastle, their last game of the season is Chelsea. And I can and maybe it's a history thing, and obviously they have the personnel. If it goes to that last game, Liverpool have Southampton away, and I think the bulk of us expect Southampton to quite possibly be relegated by that point. That could be very, very interesting, and Liverpool could give themselves a huge chance, but they've got to go on one hell of a run.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason why a lot of people will be backing Liverpool at this stage is because we've seen Liverpool do this over the last few seasons, and you know if there's a team that's capable of winning 6-7 straight, it's probably Liverpool out of this bunch. My only thing is, having watched Liverpool every game near enough, it's Jekyll and Hyde, like not just game after game. It's like 10 minutes per game is different. Right. They were troubled by Forest because Forest were really good at throw-ins, which is just that's a pretty good barometer of where your team is at if every throw-in feels like it's going to be a goal. The fixtures are really nice, actually. Liverpool probably have the nicest set of fixtures. West Ham away, which I think Liverpool always struggle in that game. West Ham are just one of these sides that ruffle their feathers. But then West Ham have played, I think, 3 in 11 days, and so this will be another one. So it'll be 4 in 13 days. Then Tottenham at home is a fixture that's always good, but Tottenham are in a bad place. Fulham at home, Brentford at home. I think if Liverpool can beat West Ham, they can easily win the next 3. They won't have a different conversation, but it's 9 points behind Newcastle. You need Newcastle to drop points 3 times at least, and Newcastle have a superior goal difference. So it's basically 3.5 games. Right. That's a lot of games to claw back at this stage in the season.
If I could offer you Europa League, Europa Conference League, or nothing, what would you want?
Ooh.
People don't like that fixture congestion each year, do they?
Well, Europa League probably, I think I would take, because I think it's got, over the last few years, it's actually been very well respected. You see United just went out to Sevilla and it felt like there was a Champions League exit. So, but the other one, no disrespect, but I don't want to play in that. I don't want to play.
Aston Villa didn't expect to be talking about them when it comes to the Champions League. Unai Emery's done absolutely fantastically. And again, if we look at the form, they've won the last 4 and then drew against Brentford just recently. I can't help but feel like they're kind of at their ceiling, though, and it's one of those conversations which you probably had last year with, say, Wolves, where they were kind of in the running, and then you would imagine they would fall away, especially with the games that they've got coming up. It sort of suits them being the underdog, but they probably need to win every game to get in the Champions League this year, right, Pippa?
And that's why I think they'll fall short. I mean, when Unai Emery stepped into this role, I think it was a perfect match. They've improved all round. Ollie Watkins has come into great form as well, scoring goals back-to-back games, but with the fixtures they have coming up, with the other teams contending for Champions League, it's not going to be easy for them. And to win every game is going to be pretty much impossible when they've got to face United still, Spurs and Liverpool, and all of those teams.
Brighton as well.
Yeah. And all of those teams are going to want points off Aston Villa and vice versa. And it's going to be too difficult for Unai Emery and these guys. So I'm not too sure they might get Europe, of course. But
they
Champions
definitely
League,
take Conference League, 100%.
Yeah, totally.
If you offer it to them now, they bite your hand off.
Absolutely, and I think coming back to the XG element of it, I think the picture it paints is the fact that Villa manage games very well, but those games are still quite tight as well, and that leads to a bit of variance, and you might draw a couple of games that really you might need to win. And I agree, I struggle to see Villa doing it, but they have been proving us wrong for a long time now. Unai Emery seems to know what he's doing there. Let's move on to Tottenham. And then Man United. Look, Man United have got to be the front runners. Yeah. I think overall, the big question for me is, can they keep enough of those key players fit? If they're able to do that, they should be all right, Nubaid, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, they're 6 points ahead of Tottenham with 2 games in hand. I think United, if they win 2 games or even 3, they'll probably still make it, because I think the rest of the teams chasing them is far too inconsistent. And we obviously touched on Brighton. Maybe Brighton are the one side that might be able to chase them down. But again, like we said about Brighton, they will have games where they absolutely batter the opposition but don't score. They have to play against Arsenal as well. So I think United, in my eyes, they're the safest of the bunch, because they've got the game in hand, because they've got the players that can get them over the line. Whereas I think some of the other sides are a little bit more inconsistent. Villa lean on Watkins a lot. Newcastle leaning on Isak at the moment. United can sort of spread the weight a little bit.
The one thing I do like, those last 3 games, again, look, and got past Brighton in the FA Cup, but a win against Brentford are kind of stopped now a little bit. Everton really struggling. Forest can't get a goal either. It kind of makes it look a little bit better. And that Sevilla game, when you are missing some of those key players, and at the back as well, in terms of those centre backs have been so important this season, Varane and Martinez, you then start to see the old Man United, and that would be my only concern in terms of getting over the line. But I think Erik ten Hag is obviously a better manager, and he'll get a better response for them. So you would expect them to get over the line. Yeah. Pippa, let me ask you this question: Tottenham, any chance? Any chance?
There's always a small chance, but I think with their recent games and the losses they've had back to back, and that massive one that's going to be detrimental to their mentality and their character against Newcastle, it's going to be extremely difficult for them to. Who have they got? Spurs have got.
So
Man United.
Well, and we knew this was going to be a key area of the season. Newcastle, Man United, Liverpool, and that was where I think you needed to be in a good place coming out the back of that. They go into the game against Man United having, won 1 game in their last 5. There's no way, is there?
It'll be a miracle, and I feel like the fans don't have hope either.
The fixtures are not terrible though. They could beat United. United will be knackered after playing Brighton and Sevilla, and they do look tired and they're picking up injuries. You get a win there, maybe take a draw at Anfield. Then you play Palace at home, you probably win. Play Villa away.
Start feeling good. Yeah.
Then you play Brentford at home. You could possibly win that. Leeds away. West Ham at home. They're not the worst fixtures in the world. So I do feel like they could easily win 80 or 90% of their last few games and maybe run it close.
Spurs fans need your mentality, because all the Spurs fans I've spoken to at the moment, they've lost all hope.
But they've given up, and I don't know why. Like it could still potentially be in their hands. Out of all the teams that are currently in the race, they've probably got the easiest fixtures.
It's trust issues with Tottenham. I don't trust them to put in 3 back-to-back good performances. This isn't last season. Last season they had a very similar shape, but were playing with that intensity, playing proactively. Kulusevski was fantastic. Son couldn't stop scoring goals. None of that exists anymore, and so for me, I think there's no way. I see them Conference League at best.
Wow.
I could even see them finishing 8th if Villa can continue their form.
What is your order? If
8?
What's happening here?
Not even
I think it gets uglier and uglier and uglier for Tottenham between now and the end of the season. I really, really do.
I think they'll get 2 wins.
Do we all agree? We think it will. After all that, we think it will be Newcastle and Man United, or Nubaid, are you going to chuck Liverpool in there? They were the team that were 2 points off Newcastle for me.
Nah, I think it'll be Newcastle, United. I think it will be Liverpool in 5th, but I don't think it will be close.
Okay. Pippa?
Newcastle are a Champions League team now.
Yeah, it's done.
They've cemented it in this season. No, they've been floating around the top table all season now, and they've been consistent. So, yeah, it's going to stay Newcastle. I assume it will be United as well in 4th, and then possibly Liverpool and Brighton.
Okay. Brighton, Aston Villa, Tottenham, and Liverpool fans, spam the comments. Tell us we're wrong.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.